So I'll go over a list of things that I go through when the car is behaving erratically, or if someone's handing me their car and says something's off, kind of a list of things that I check and try to diagnose what's going on. So first off, look at the tires, make sure there's tire tape present, the tires aren't loose on both the front and back. They're on the wheels correctly, not shifted, or some people put it on backwards as well. Make sure the tires are not hitting the body. So like the front left at full throw is not hitting the body. The motor pod as it moves up and down, and sometimes you'll see evidence of this. For instance, this tire was rubbing the body, and you actually see a wear mark on the tire. So definitely that was hitting the body. That can do weird things. Sometimes the damper post, for instance, this one's fairly tall, depending on the body, and the windshield clearance can hit the damper post, sometimes like extremes, and cause weird things. Make sure that your wheels are free to spin. Sometimes people will give me their cars and the wheel nuts are too tight, they don't spin, or there's even like hair or something else clogged in there and the wheel's just not spinning smoothly. Check the diff. The gear diffs are pretty maintenance free, but definitely the ball diffs, they should be buttery smooth and feel no crunching or at all. And we have to get a feel for when a diff is new as compared to when it's used and starts to get a little rough. But if it's rough, it can cause uneven diff action and strange behavior. Gear mesh. So checking that you have not too tight and not too loose gear mesh. Sometimes people will put the gear mesh really tight and their car will basically drag because there's a lot of friction from the motor with the gear too tight, and sometimes it's too loose and your teeth are kind of almost like half skipping. If it's a T-plate with a damper, check to make sure the damping action is smooth. It's free, the discs aren't binding up, everything is clean. T-plate cars, make sure the T-plate is mounted correctly. Nothing's loose on the screws, the pod, or the chassis. Going on from there, just grab a setup plate or board, put the car on the plate, and look at things like the ride height, front and rear, with the body on as well. Make sure the body is not too low, scraping the track. Make sure the chassis is not scraping the track. Check to make sure left and right are about even in terms of ride height. And then just go into the look at the front ends and rear ends. Look at feel the suspension in the front. Make sure it's smooth, nothing is catching and free floating. Just depends on the car. If you're looking at a GL or MR03 car, same applies. Just looking at the smoothness of the rear end, the front end. Make sure nothing is binding. Sometimes the motor wires can catch, depending on how the motor wires are routed. They could catch on the shocks or the body or pinch on something. And then definitely check for like loose screws anywhere. Folks don't often use Loctite in areas, so sometimes a screw will back out. The double A-arms are kind of notorious for this. There's lots of little set screws that can back out, the kingpins, etc. So sometimes they'll be a little loose and then something will be off. So those are the basic things I check, and generally you can do this within a few minutes, very quickly. And if something you'll find fairly obvious if something is off.